All right, hello. Officially, welcome to our April virtual book club with our wonderful special guest author, Elizabeth Bear. Welcome, Elizabeth.
I am so pleased to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. Oh my goodness, what a treat this is to have you. Now, you would not know this, so I'm going to tell you. This is the second time I've presented your book for our book club, but previously it was in person. So I'm thrilled that we can do this virtually because through the power of Star Trek, we're able to have you here with us in our virtual tea parlor. So welcome. Thank you.
There is nothing in this world that I love more than a book club. So
Oh my gosh. Well, we are avid steampunk readers, and this is a beautiful steampunk read. So, we read your book, Care and Memory, which came out in 2015. And you and I were having a little chat about that adventure and getting it published beforehand. So, I would love to dive into that. Yes, and thank you, Bill. It's also our fourth anniversary Steampunk Virtual Book Club.
oh,
I'm
marvelous.
delighted beyond words to have this book, this particular book, be our anniversary book because it is a wonderful steampunk read. Can you share a little bit what inspired you to write a sort of steampunk book? And was the setting the thing that came to you first, or did it all happen sort of together?
The reason I wanted to write this book and write it in the way that it came out, I guess, is I had this idea for a character who was a saloon girl, who was the protagonist, and I really wanted to sort of play to some of those tropes, but also reinvent them. I didn't want to present sex work in a salacious manner. I wanted to present it as a job. And I also had heard about the sewing machine tax, which may or may not be apocryphal as a bit of Seattle history. I don't know if you know about this or not. And wanted to literalize that metaphor. And I started thinking about steampunk sewing machines. Um, and women's work, um, and seamstressing, and the metaphor just sort of built itself.
Oh, I love that. And may I say, your steampunk sewing machine in this book is bar none my favorite steampunk mad science ever created. I have told people you need to read this book just so you can discover what my favorite steampunk invention is. And if you can't figure it out by the end of the book, I can't help you. So it's such a wonderful piece of technology, but also you really did nail that. The sex work does not feel salacious. It feels very important. It feels very honored by the story. And also this book feels prescient for the moment we're in now, even though it came out in 2015 and you wrote it earlier than that. It's talking about the LGBTQ experience, a diverse experience. It's talking about equity. It's elevating women's work. You're a futurist. That is something you do as well as write. When you are creating stories, do you feel like some of your prescience about the culture is sort of some of your prescience about technology as well?
I don't know if it's prescient so much as just reading a lot of technology news,
Mm.
reading a lot of political news, reading a lot of history. The expression history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Mm.
And it seems to me that the moment we're in now bears a lot of similarity to the 1870s,
Mm.
in terms of economics, in terms of labor movements,
Mm.
in terms of uh, movements for political freedoms. I definitely felt that there was a Gilded Age feel to the early 20 teens, even, not
Yes.
as much so as there is sort of as a vibe now,
Yes.
but we live in a very exploitative time. and Karen lives in a very exploitative time. And so it setting the book in the 1870s allowed me to talk about some of that exploitation,
Mm.
and set it at a little bit of a distance so that it's more palatable, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah.
And sometimes people will look at a situation that's outside of their experience more clearly than they'll look at one that they're living through.
They'll be less defensive, perhaps. Yeah,
That is
right?
exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. And I do think that that's a strength of steampunk that sometimes gets lost or people forget about in
Yeah.
the enjoyment of all of the sort of fripperies and the aesthetic of the experience. But this is something magical about your story because it is kind of bridging that gap of the old steampunk that's very crunchy and looking at the power dynamic between the megacorps and that sort of cyberpunk
Mhm.
way, and then that second wave of steampunk that was coming out in 2009, 2010, big publishing, and was elevating these stories that were more marginalized communities. When you were getting started, you wrote this in 2019, you said. Were you seeing that steampunk was starting to be a thing, or do you think it was just that you were so tapped in to the zeitgeist in the moment?
Oh, well, I think steampunk had been a thing in 2009 for certainly I had been aware of it. I had been aware of things like Girl Genius and the difference engine, and so it was an interest of mine going in, and something that it is both an aesthetic and a kind of alternate history that I'm very fond of.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the problems I've always had in writing alternate history, not it doesn't bother me when I'm reading it, but in writing alternate history, I go down the rabbit hole of, but once I change one thing, everything changes. And I don't have that problem when I'm writing steampunk,
Mm,
because I just sort of go, everything is a metaphor. This is a beautiful game we're playing. So I find it I find the I don't I'm going to say trappings, but I don't mean that in a dismissive
mm,
sense. I find the trappings of steampunk very freeing
mm.
in that sense. And it's fun to be able to take futuristic technology and backdate it and play with it in that
Yeah.
sort of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, sort of way.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I love hearing you talk about it because you clearly do enjoy the genre as well as doing such a beautiful job writing in this genre. You mentioned Girl Genius. Before
Mhm.
I sort of start monopolizing your time and share you with everyone, who is one or maybe several of your favorite steampunk authors or books that you read? As you mentioned, you are familiar with the genre and we're already enjoying it.
I've been fond of the Gail Carriger I've read, although I haven't read all of her stuff, some of the early work.
Yeah.
I've been actually having a very hard time reading fiction in general for about the last 10
Mm.
years. So a lot of my reading has been nonfiction.
Oh,
And I did shout out The Difference Engine, which was my introduction to steampunk.
yes. Yes.
Um, and which I have not lost my love for.
Mm.
So I think I would have to go very old school.
Oh, classic. It's classic. I feel like you can't really talk about steampunk without talking about the difference engine. Like it or love it, feel ambivalent about it is a foundational text for the genre. And I find something new every time I read it. Something to get me thinking. So, I love that. And I love that you appreciate Gail's work as well, because she's a big favorite around here. And even though your book is quite different in tone from Madame Carragher's or Sherry Priest or some of the other
Mhm.
wonderful authors who are out there at the time, I think there is this kinship in that it is a narrative that is elevating female stories, women's stories, and I really appreciated that so much about this book. I have many more things I could ask you. I could continue to monopolize your time. It was such a
We could
delight.
talk about Sherry Priest all day too, I'm
Oh,
sure.
she's so good.
Or Niecy Shawl. Have you read Everfair?
Yes, we have. We love that book. Such a good book. And I've never had the pleasure of sitting down and having a chat with her, but I did get to meet her briefly at our local Tucson Festival of Books. And she's quite the speaker. She's a fantastic, they are a fantastic author and human. And I'm excited for their sequel to Everfair, which is
They
on
are
the horizon.
marvelous. And
Yeah.
um I just found out you're in Tucson,
Yes.
so which is where the editor of Care and Memory lives.
It's such a small world. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to accost you a little bit at the beginning. I'm going to open it up now for everyone. And so if this is your first time to our book club, I want to just tell you that what's going to happen is I'm going to call on you. You'll get an opportunity to ask a question of our dear wonderful author guest. But my question for you, so you have to answer my question and then you get to ask Elizabeth a question. My question for you is, what was a highlight for you from this book? And Alicia, so patient, so delightful. I'm going to start with you.
I think in this case, because I liked all the characters for different reasons, but I'll save that one for later. But for me, I think it was the prose. Like the book wants to be read aloud. It just I really liked Karen's voice in the book and the way she narrates things and describes things. It you want to read it. And because of her voice, if you are reading it vocally, you can have so much fun. I think that's what I really liked about the book was just it this.
Thank you.
I just I just adored that. Um what question do I have? Um oh, so because I knew who Bass Reeves was before reading the book. Because I'm kind of a Lone Ranger nerd as well. So I know who he is.
Fantastic.
And I was like, oh, I know where we are. Wait. So did you know did 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 you know about that while you were reading the book, while you're researching the book, or did that come out as a part of the research?
So I really wanted to get this was before I was working on the book before the current Bass Reeves Renaissance, which I think is fantastic. And I hope I played a small part in that. Um, I don't remember how I first heard about him, but I had read something about him somewhere, probably on some Western history page. And I did a little research and discovered that there's a very authoritative biography of him, which I think is called Black Gun Silver Star.
Yep.
So I got my hands on that and read it, and I'm like, oh, I have got to put this guy in a book.
He's like so, oh my
Isn't
God.
he? He's such a badass.
Oh my God.
And there were all these the book the biography, which I guess you've read it from your enthusiastic nodding, has so many great little character quirks about him in it that he just leaps to life on the page. And I thought that he would make a great foil for Karen in terms of allowing them to play off each other. And, hopefully I was able to write him respectfully, because whenever you're writing a real character in a fictional setting, at least for me, there's always that sense of, am I doing justice to this person? And of course, he's got grandkids who are still alive. You don't want to you never want to take somebody's family name in vain. if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
So I knew I was taking a risk, but also he's such a delightful piece of American history that I really wanted to give him a spotlight that at that point in time he didn't have.
Yeah. I as soon as you were reading the description and the mustache, and I'm like, oh wait, is this? Yes.
So good. So good. Alicia, I'm with you in my excitement for Boss Reeves. Is such a fantastic character. Thank you for your question and your comments. Terry, hello, my friend.
Hello, how are you all tonight?
Very well.
But I, what did I in what? I enjoyed the diversity a lot, the multitude of cultures and peoples that all came together. I really appreciated that and loved that. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
That was
my
very important to me.
yes, you could tell, you could tell. It was a very big strength. So, my question is, and it bothered me from the very beginning of the book, not in a bad way. You made such a point of her name spelling in the beginning of the book that it's Memery, and the title of the book is with an O. I know
Because
there's
it's
got
a
to be a
memoir.
story.
Because I mean, in part, there's a very practical reason in that you want people to pronounce it correctly. But also because the book is a memoir, it's Karen's memory. So it's a terrible pun. It's the short answer.
Okay. And now that question's answered.
I apologize profusely.
It just kept me on the edge of my chair. Good. Okay, it's going to explain it. It's the next page is going to explain it.
It's just a bad pun. There's no
Okay.
deeper explanation.
I figured it was autocorrect and it was too late to change it or something. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. That's
Thank
fantastic.
you.
All right, Lady June Squill, you're next, my darling. Hello.
Hello. The cat keeps jumping up on my lap, so if you see a tail in my face and he steps on the keys to the computer. Oh, he's gone now. Ha! I guess it's because I'm talking. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I bought the book at a signing at the Tucson Festival of Books that you did in whatever that was, 2015, maybe?
I probably would have been, I think
Yeah.
2015 was the last time I was there.
Yeah, so very much enjoyed it. Enjoyed it when we read it in the book group the first time. Enjoyed it more now, maybe because I don't know, it just seemed like the right time. And I don't think it's exactly a question, but the thing that I just want to envision the machine, the Singer sewing machine. I just wanted a picture of it in my mind of that because it's so wonderful, and she does so many things with it that seem like anyway, she gets herself out of a horrible fire along with the cat, of course.
Always save the cat.
Always save the cat, right?
Always save the cat.
Yeah. And then she goes and breaks Madam out of jail, and it was just, that is the most wonderful part of the book, as I agree with Jocelyn, that that the sewing machine. I have my mother-in-law's Singer treadle, so I try to envision that.
I grew up in a house with a Singer treadle sewing machine.
Yeah.
Which I don't think my mother has anymore, but it's possible that she does. And that was the inspiration for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, I don't have a drawing because I can't draw.
No, I had to try to imagine it in my mind. It's the same thing that I have with the Seattle, and in this book, the streets that have been lowered and raised, and I have a hard time envisioning. They come out of the buildings and then they have to climb up ladders, and so And I guess that really is true in Seattle, that they did that.
It's actually true in a lot of older cities. There are parts of Boston and Chicago that had the same thing happen, where they raised parts of the streets on fill and basically buried the lower levels of some of the buildings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lady June Scott. I did
Thank
not
you.
know that about Chicago and Boston. That's so cool. Thank you, June. And as an aside, I just imagine the singer as being like Ripley's big, machine in Aliens 2, only steampunk with sewing. Yeah.
Yeah, so only with sewing needles.
Right. Yes. And shears.
Definitely shears.
Christina, you're up next, my darling. Hello.
Hello. So I have to preface with one of the policies of steampunk is you don't have to have read the whole book to participate, and I'm in that boat.
Yes.
I won't spoil it for you.
I came with expectation of spoilers. I'm okay with that because I really wanted to meet you with how much I've read already. So, and hang out with all my fun steampunk friends. But I'm about 3 hours into the audiobook, really enjoying the narration. They're doing a great job in the audiobook version.
Oh, isn't she
and
great?
Yes, it's really nicely done, and I do a lot of audiobooks. I have opinions there, and this is good. It can really make a book or break a book for me, who's reading, and I have a lot of time on the road for work, so audiobooks are what get me through that 4-hour drive across the state. But that being said, I know you mentioned it earlier, but I really liked how you address this concept. The sex workers are not, it's just work for them, and reading them, hearing when they talked about it, and they just mentioned, it's work, it is what it is, it's what I do, it pays better money than doing, the drudgery chores. But then when the character didn't want to do it, they weren't upset with her. It wasn't get out of the house. It was, okay, you won't make as much money, but sure, if you want to do these things instead, that's fully acceptable. And I just, it was really refreshing compared to most books and how we see that portrayed or discussed. So I wanted to say thank you for that, first of all. It was really appreciated.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice. And question wise, how did you do your research for that component of it? Were there a lot of things you're able to read up on, or how did you go about that, getting comfortable with that portion of society and the time period?
There are actually some very good books on sex workers in the Old West, and I used a bunch of those as and I can't, of course, all the titles have gone clear out of my head. But there are, and so I had some knowledge through that, and I also used to read the back in the dim mists of history of LiveJournal and the blogosphere. I used to read the blogs of a couple of sex workers.
Oh wow, okay.
Talked about their job and how it worked and what they did, and I think that was part of the foundation of this character, was having read because the matter-of-factness with which they treated their job as a job made me, as a much younger person than I am now, realize that this is a job. This is a job that people have to do. And so it was important to me in writing this character to present it that way. And it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
That's delightful, though. And thank you for bringing that up, Christina, because I do think it's one of the real strengths of this book, is never titillating just for the sake of it. And it felt very real and, again, very timely for this moment in which the topic of sex work and being respectful to sex workers is very current in the discourse. So, yeah. All right, Kelsey. Hello, my friend.
Hello, I'm with Christina in that I'm partway through the book, but I was so excited because my library had not only that one, but the sequel as well. So I've got those to read back to back after this. So I'm excited to also read, what was it, Stone Mad as well after this. But in the third that I'm through, I'm really loving it so far, particularly aside from the characterizations that everybody's been talking about. Your food descriptions are amazing. I was getting hungry reading it. I was going to ask if you remember from the research side of things, like sometimes whenever you write these alternate history things, like finding out things like food and stuff like that, like like the nitty-gritty details of stuff, like what was your research like for that part of the book? If
So
you
you can
remember.
actually go online and find things like restaurant menus from the 1800s. And I did a lot of that. And I did a lot of reading on the gold rush, the various gold rushes, because there were, multiple gold rushes, on the foodways of the Pacific Northwest, on the sorts of things. We have this sort of Sergio Leone spaghetti Western idea of what the West looked like. And one of the things that, because I lived in Las Vegas for some time, which doesn't have a lot of the Old West left, and was what didn't really exist before 1900. So really is not an Old West town. But I've been to Tombstone. I've visited, Tucson. I've visited various other places that have preserved buildings from the time period. And it was in many ways much more civilized than we present it as. You find some, one of the reasons that New York City devastated the oyster populations in its harbors was because they were shipping them west at such a massive.
Oh no.
I know, they'll survive for weeks on ice in crates, and so New York's harbor was wall to wall oysters, and they harvested them, threw them on trains, and shipped them west. So you could get New York City oysters in Chicago, in Seattle, anywhere the trains ran. And my thinking is that in a steampunk setting, that's only going to be more so because the technology is better, the trains are faster, you have better preservation technology. Sorry, I'm going down a real nerd rabbit hole.
Oh no, I love it. I love it. I'm here for it. I was hoping it was going to be a good question and you're giving me a great answer. I loved the details in the marketplace where everything came
Yeah.
from. I just thought that was so flippin' cool.
And I love economics. So and this is all it's all how economies work. Alicia, Tombstone is a tourist trap, but it's a neat tourist trap.
Yes. And occasionally we get Alicia down here for our Wild Wild West Con, which happens in early March. And now I know I have to drag her to Tombstone. Bisbee is.
Yes.
I'll take you to Bisbee.
The Copper Queen.
Yes.
The Copper Queen was totally on my mind when I was writing Madame Damnable. The saloon.
It's so beautiful. It's a beautiful saloon, and we're very fortunate to still have it in existence so near to us. So if you're listening or you're here with us right now and you want to go someplace, pop into Tombstone. They're going to love me talking about them this way. Pop in for a couple of hours, then head over to Bisbee and spend the day and the night there because Bisbee is so lovely. Yeah. So, thank you for the comment and the moment to plug our local tourist attractions here in Tucson. Kelsey, great question about the research and all the things. The food was really delicious. And the way the brothel works with serving food, I think, makes it feel just so much more real rather than a spaghetti western sort of place. So
And
thank
it's
you.
fun to write a character who likes her groceries.
Heck yes. Madame Damnable is a fantastic character. I don't just say that because I'm a madam too. So, all right, Gregory, hello, my friend. Would you like to ask a question about Arthur? I know this is your first time here with us.
No, thank you. We've been enjoying the conversation so far, though.
Thank you, Gregory, and thank you for attending. All right, Bill, you know what that means. You're next.
I have to admit, I don't really have any questions about the book. I wasn't involved with the in-person book club, so I read it for the first time just in the last few weeks, and really enjoyed it and loved the touches. It was a tremendously engrossing book. I mean, I got sucked in. I several times got really hungry with all of the food descriptions that were there. So I enjoyed it a great deal. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we have a visitor. Oh, no, he's not going to let me put him on camera.
Ah, is your visitor a cat or a dog?
Our visitor is here. He is. Can I pick you up, buddy? Hey,
Oh,
say hello.
Oh, 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 we need a cat
He's like,
break.
oh no, put me down. Oh, I'm getting both of them now.
We
as
do.
jealousy kicks in, you're paying attention
So-
to the one cat. I want attention now.
Yeah. So this is Duncan, and the gray one is Gurney because my husband is a huge Dune fan. So
We love our pets around here, and Lady June Squill already had a cat visitation, but we routinely take breaks for our pets because they're delightful. Yours are wonderful.
they are always a little bit jealous when I'm on a Zoom call because I'm not paying attention to them.
The scandal, the
I
scandal.
know.
When you're writing, do
heartbreak.
they help you with your writing? Do they lie across your hands while you're typing, or?
They do. I have a bad shoulder, so I usually type on my lap on a laptop. Because otherwise I get bursitis, and nobody likes bursitis. And I usually have a cat or possibly two cats stretched out across my legs while I am attempting to do this. And Gurney the gray, he in particular thinks that if he wants snuggling, that there should be absolutely nothing else should come between him and his snuggling. Like he is not willing to have passive snuggling. It has to be full contact, total attention.
Active snuggles only.
Active snuggles only. No mere cuddling for him.
That's delightful. Well, Gurney sounds like a charmer, and I'm glad that he allowed a moment of introduction. So, thank you for sharing him with us.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Susanna, I am going to give you an opportunity if you'd like to ask any questions of the author, but of course, there's never any pressure to do so.
Hi, my name is Susanna, and it's lovely to meet you. Yeah, actually, I work with a publishing company, and Nisi Shawl is one of our authors. So I'm glad I'm glad to hear that everyone loves them so much. So thank you.
Thank you, Susanna. Thanks for being here. Right, my darlings. Well, now you've suffered through one round. You know I'm not done with you. I'm going to torment you again. I'm going to shake it up a little bit. So I hope you queued up some more questions for our wonderful author guest. I'm so glad we could touch on things like the food and the research, because those are such vibrant parts of the book. And it does feel so deeply and beautifully researched. But one of the things that struck me about this novel, Elizabeth, and why it continues to be one of my top tier favorite steampunk reads, as I told everybody, I won't tell them where in the top, but I'm just like, it's tops, all right. That's all you need to know. Um, but I think it's, for me, the characters above everything. Your characters are so nuanced and three-dimensional and so diverse, which is something we touched on a little bit. But they are beautiful characters. And so my question for all of you is, who was your favorite character? So you have to answer my question first, and then you get to ask Elizabeth one of yours. And Alicia, since you were so brave last time, I'm not going to make you go first this time. I'm going to start out with Lady June Squirrel. Who is one of your favorite characters? And do you have another question for Elizabeth, or a compliment? Question or compliment?
Well, Madame Damnable is my favorite character because she just
Hard to
seemed,
beat.
yeah, she, the wrangling up the town and her her staff. We'll call her staff. Also, Miss Francine or Miss Francina. I loved her. She was, especially when she decided to disguise herself as a man and went to the other people, went to the crib to try to rescue the sister.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I have another question. They're all wonderful, Bass Reeves, Crispin, who protects the women, and and of course Karen. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to take everybody's best.
You're just priming the pump, Tune.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, and can I say one thing?
Yes.
I guess our author is not from this part of the world, but she talked about the laws of 1870 being applicable to today. And I don't know if she knew that we've just gone back to the 1864 abortion law in Arizona.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
It's
Anyway, it's just
outrageous.
I just get very upset. So, but thank you.
June, you are not alone. I like to say that steampunk was not actually a guide. It's a fiction and also perhaps a little bit of a warning, not a suggestion. So, Christina, you are next, my darling.
Favorite character, I have to agree, Madame Damnable's pretty cool so far. I'm enjoying her. And as I said, I'm only 3 hours into the book so far, so I've got a ways to go. But I did enjoy her. Question. So I know we talked about this a little bit, but I'm really interested in the concept of the ladders and the concept of up and down, and just did you do some more research into that? Where did that come from? We talked a little about a few of the cities, but I find it really interesting.
Yeah, that actually I think somebody mentioned earlier, specifically Seattle had this and you can actually take a tour of part of the old Seattle Underground if you happen to find yourself in Seattle, where they will, I'm pretty sure it gets mentioned in one of Sherry Priest's books too.
It does.
It's been so long since I read it.
I think it's in Bone Shaker. I think
it is in Bone Shaker. I think that they escape through the tunnels at one point.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, Kelsey is confirming. Yeah, thank you, Kelsey.
And I actually, if I remember correctly, I actually went on that tour with Sherry Priest. So, so you can see the influence on both of our work. And you can find resources online, and there are resources in books about Seattle's history. that discuss it and discuss a bunch of and from what I understand, a lot of the stuff they tell you on the Underground tour is mythologized and may not be 100% true.
Mhm.
But actually, that's one of the other places where the inspiration for Madame Damnable comes from, because there was a madam in Seattle called Mother Damnable, who was notorious as a mover and shaker. And one of the photographs, postcards that that you can buy as a souvenir of the tour is a portrait of some ladies of the evening. One of whom was the inspiration for Miss Francina.
Oh,
As there is a strapping blonde. And there, so, and I think you can actually find many of those images online if you Google Seattle Underground. And you can find descriptions from people who have taken the tour and some people who have done research on it. So there's a whole bunch of background information that you can get on that. That's just fascinating stuff.
awesome. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to take a look at that, because I love the concept of some visual references to kind of make that a little more tangible, because it's really fascinating.
I can't get you photographs of the singer, but I can get you photographs of the trenches. So
That's delightful. Oh, fantastic. Great question and comments, Christina. Thank you. And also, I'm going to treasure forever the knowledge that you toured the Seattle Underground with Sherry Priest. I think that is what a wonderful confluence of things. I love Sherry Priest's work as well, and we're reading one of her books later this year. So it's some fantastic kismet going on. Thank you.
She is a delightful human being and a delightful writer.
She's an incredible writer, and she has fantastic pets. So.
Yes, she does.
I love her social media for her pets. All right, Kelsey, you're next, my friends.
Like everybody else, Madam Damnable, but also very much Karen, because her voice is just so unique and strong, and the way that she describes the other characters makes it really easy to fall for them too. Like her perceptions of the other girls and Bass Reeves, and I hope I don't get the name wrong, but Miss was it Francisca?
Francine.
Francine. I love how she said that when talking about her identity, that it was just God's rude joke. I thought that was a beautiful description. It took care of everything in one line, and I just thought that was so well done, and I love that so much. It was a really cool way of doing things. As far as questions, I don't know if I missed this coming in late to the conversation, but like we talked about like the historical research, but why steampunk for your alternate history with like the cool tech? I mean, aside from that, it's very fun.
Some of it is just love for steampunk. And some of it just felt right. I wanted to write a story set in the 1870s that had science fictional trappings. And one of the things about the Karen books is that they are specifically it's scientific steampunk. There's no magic. So it's all very science fictional. There are the one concession I made to myself was I decided that there were going to be cryptids that, like Sasquatch and so forth. All the cryptid animals are real. So there really are hoop snakes. There really are hide behinds. All of these, the Jersey Devil is out there somewhere. Um, jackalopes. I'm sure there are jackalopes. Pacific tree octopuses. Why not? But other than that, I wanted to have a strictly technological flavor of steampunk. And so that was I mean, it was a long time ago. It was more than 10 years ago that I was writing the book. So I can't remember specifically what the inspiration was for any of it. But when I'm building a book, a lot of it is just sometimes this seems fun, let's throw it in and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, then you take it out again. But once I had the idea in my head of the singer and the sewing machines as a metaphor for women's work, then I knew that it really had to be steampunk.
That makes a lot of sense. I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. It was good to revisit that. We brushed on it a little bit and it was great to go a bit deeper. So thank you for that question. And this is my reminder that you're always on time, no matter when you arrive. And even if you are asking a question that is similar, we want to hear it. So there is no shame here. The Grand Arbiter has killed all the shame. So Terry, you're next, and then Georgie will be calling on you.
Okay. I think for a favorite character, which is very difficult because they were all so strong, Priya.
Very good.
She's just so resilient and overcomes such horror. So yeah, I admire her very much. And Karen wants to go back to horse training. Do you have much experience with horses? I have a daughter who's horse crazy, so I had to ask.
Well, at the time when I was writing the book, my experience with horses was working as a stable hand when I was in college and doing a little bit of writing.
Yeah.
Now my husband and I have a pair of Icelandic horses, and which is mostly the fault of a friend of mine who got me back into riding after a 20-year hiatus. And also my editor for these books, Beth Meacham, is an experienced horsewoman, and I relied heavily on her knowledge in order to get the horses right. So she was fantastic. And you've actually given me an opening to share some good news with you,
Yes.
which is that there's going to be a third book, in which Kara does get to go back to horse training, or actually being a stunt writer for the incipient movie industry. Because my editor has retired, I am going to be self-publishing it. It will be out this fall. I don't have an exact date yet. And the title is Angel Maker. So, and you're the first to know as an official, because I just finalized my arrangements with the person who's going to be doing the book design and the cover artist and all of those other people that you have to get lined up. So Angel Maker, sometime in the fall of 2024.
Well, congratulations very much.
Well, thank
And
you very
thank
much.
you.
So,
And I know
and Karen gets to do what she loves.
Bill keeps us very well informed on these things. So I
Yes.
know he'll post it when it's ready.
Yes, he
If we
will.
miss it on our own. which I don't
Fantastic.
think we will.
Bill, I'll when I have a actual publication date, I'll drop you an email.
Thank you very much. We'd love to help promote the upcoming book, and this is my opportunity to really encourage everyone to read the sequel. Just because we're not discussing it in book club doesn't mean it's not delightful. It is. It's a fantastic follow-up to the original book in the series, and I'm thrilled you're going to get to tell more of their stories going forward. So that's very exciting news. Thank you.
I have plans for a fourth book too, but I have not written that one. So we'll see.
Oh my gosh. Can we have you back to do another?
Absolutely.
That would be wonderful.
Of course.
That'd be great. We'd like to have you back. We'll just schedule now. That'd be great. All right. Georgie, you specifically said you had a favorite character, so please share, my friends.
Hello. Yes, I read the book not long after it came out, and I was so struck by it that it stayed in my mind for all of these years since. And I've just picked it up again to refresh myself. But what I'm struck by is Karen's language. I love how she talks. She is colloquial, she is colorful, and her language expresses her character. But it also, oh, how to say that? It really evokes other people, other characters, and the setting. And in a sense, it reminded me, now this is sort of bizarre, but it reminded me of Huck Finn, that it is sort of emblematic of a time and a place rather uniquely. So I was just struck by Karen. I think she's a unique character, and I really like how she's expressed. And I'm just looking forward to reading more books about her. Thank you.
Well, I think this is the first time in my career that I've ever been compared to Mark Twain, and I am flattered beyond all measure. Thank you so much. Oh, here's Mr. Gurney. He's back. The a lot of the playful language was inspired by Western slang. There is a whole, there are lexicons of linguistic playfulness that I relied heavily on, and some of it is pure Karen, some of it is pure invention, but certainly some things, some turns of phrase I borrowed wholesale from actual, like coffin varnish for whiskey.
Oh yeah,
is an actual Western term, and one of which I'm fond. Oh, look, a tail.
Yep.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Oh, Gregory, please, Georgie, please go on.
Oh no, I had just finished. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. It's so lovely to have you.
That's my first time.
Yes, I hope you'll come back. It's
Very
wonderful.
likely.
All right, Alicia, I saved you for the end. And then we'll all torment Bill together, as we love to do. Poor Bill.
I definitely like the addition of Bass just because I know who he is. But also I really liked Crispin because he's just so chill, and yet he has this presence. I really liked him as well.
Oh, thank you.
It just, I don't know. But I would love to read more stories about Captain Colony, like seriously.
About who? I'm sorry. Oh,
Captain Colony.
Colony,
the airship. Like,
yeah,
come on.
He might come back. He might come back. He is actually his physical description and general air of joie de vivre are based on a friend of mine who passed away while I was writing the book. Or actually, no, shortly after the book came out. I think, I don't remember the exact timeline. My friend, the author Jay Lake, who is a Pacific Northwest writer, who also wrote some steampunk.
Yeah, we've read one of his books.
Yes. Yeah. So Minneapolis Colony is loosely a loosely Tuckerized version of Jay. Jay, as far as I know, never had an airship. But if he had, that's exactly what he would have done with it.
Oh, that's
yeah. I would totally read even a bunch of short stories about random adventures with him. That would just be so fun.
I didn't think about that. He was a lot of fun to write.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun to honor my friend that way. So
yeah, I know he came sort of right at the end, but he came at the perfect time.
He's
Yeah.
such a great character too. I'm so glad that you and Lady June Squill were talking about him in the comments because honestly, not to be too melodramatic, but this book is so chock full of incredible characters. That
I know.
everyone is fantastic. And then you sort of put the cherry on top when he arrives.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's like you want to run away with all of them and do
Mm,
different adventures
absolutely. No,
for different reasons.
that's so good. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Thank you so
100%.
much.
All right, Bill, it's your turn.
Of course
Bill's
it
so brave.
is. Um, I want to echo what Madam Askew said about the characters. There were so many characters, and they're all so well developed and so rich. It was really impressive. There isn't anybody in this book that's just a cardboard cutout. I mean, all of them have so much depth to them. It was really it was part of the enchantment of this book for me.
Perfectly stated. So, uh, do we have any other pressing questions? All of you, this is your opportunity. Whilst we have Elizabeth here, and whilst she thinks
What
we are nice people.
was that, a sewing pun? Pressing questions?
Unintentional,
Oh,
unintentional. But let's
Thank
say
you.
I
I'll be here
planned
all
it that
evening.
way. I was really
sheer
steaming
genius.
along. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh no. Oh no. I'm terrible at puns, but that was a very good one.
I'll stop there. I'll
No,
stop
no.
there.
No, we love puns here too. They're just not my strong suit unless they're unintentional. But you do have a facility for language that comes through on the page, the way you write, your dialogue, the interplay with your characters. I know that editorial matters. I know that time in the chair and working at the story matters, and you have all of that experience, but you set a very high bar of expectation for steampunk stories. And part of it is that your dialogue is both so pithy and so natural feeling at the same time. I am somewhat astonished by that, is that I know it's not easy to do. I can't point at the one thing that's your strength because you're so strong in all of the areas of crafting a novel. It makes it a little hard to compliment you because I'm like, where do I start? There are too many nice things to say. But as we have a little bit of time before we wrap up, would you like to talk a little bit about developing the dialogue and the language? Because each character has a tone and has a style of speaking, even the side characters.
I don't have a terribly strong visual imagination, which is one of the reasons why I was saying earlier I don't draw. But what I do have an ear and an auditory imagination. So I try, when I'm writing the characters, I try to hear them in my head and hear how they're talking to one another. And when I'm in a flow state, when it's really going well, then I almost hear the conversation as it's happening. And it's, a lot of the invention gets done by my subconscious mind, or unconscious mind, depending on which term you prefer. So I think about sometimes I think about if I'm doing the thing where I'm casting a friend as a character, then I hear that friend's voice in my head. And if I am very occasionally, I will cast an actor in my head as character, and then Karen herself is named after a friend of mine, whose name is Karen Memory Bruce, which is also why her dad's name is Bruce. Not that, not that matters, but so I try to, excuse me, sir, the jealousy has begun. Someone is sharpening his claws on my chair.
Oh, I relate. I relate to that extremely.
Um, so in trying to hear the character talking and hear how they interact with the other characters, that's a large part of how the book gets built in my head and how the narrative gets built. I can do a brief outline, like a couple of pages that will give me an idea of where the book is going to go. But once I start writing, it inevitably departs from that because the characters never fully take on a life of their own until I start writing them and until I start hearing their voices in my head.
I love that. Well, truthfully, you knock it out of the park on that front. And I think that the audiobook, Alicia mentioned it, I mentioned in the comments, is so beautifully done. It really highlights that. So in preparation for book club this time, even though I've read your book actually many times, as it's a favorite, I listened to the audiobook for the first time. And so I want to recommend that to everyone because it really highlights the quality of this dialogue and interplay between your characters. The narrator does a fantastic job.
She is absolutely marvelous, and her name has gone clear out of my head. But she's wonderful. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. My audiobook publisher picked her out and sent me a sample, and I was like, she's fantastic. So
Great.
I'm hoping that if we manage to do an audiobook of Angel Maker, that she will be able to come back and do that again. And Duncan, he's going to
The cat
he's going to knock my
interrupts.
laptop off the stand in a minute here. He's being enthusiastic.
Well, so before the kitties end our time together, because cats have demands, we all understand how that is. I'm so excited that you are going to continue Karen's story. I was a little bit sad that we only had two books because they are both so fantastic. And I'm thrilled that you are going to be self-publishing this book. Is this your first foray into self-publishing, or have you had some experience with that before?
I have previously self-published one novel length work, which is a historical young adult book that I wrote with Catherine Addison, who wrote The Goblin Emperor. It's called The Cobbler's Boy, and it's Christopher Marlowe Boy Detective. And we just could not find a publisher for this thing. It was too weird. Nobody wanted it, so we published it ourselves. But you can get it on Amazon. So
truthfully, we do invite a lot of small press and indie self-published authors as our guests. We love to support our small independent artists around here. I'm excited for your foray here, and I can promise you that we will be delighted to help promote your third book in this series because the first two are stunning, and I really want everyone to read the entire series. So thank you.
I would love to come back. I had a delightful time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking this time with us today. It's been such a pleasure having you. You're a wonderful author and a fantastic guest. I know you have a website. So for those of you who want to keep up with Elizabeth Bear, there's a website. There's a newsletter, I believe, as well.
There is, which is linked on the website, and the website is elizabethbear.com. Very easy to remember.
Excellent. And do you have any other ways you recommend people keeping up with your writing and what you are getting up to?
The newsletter is probably the best bet. It's currently on Substack. We may be moving somewhere else. The it's one of those things where if you go to subscribe, it'll ask you to sign up for a paid subscription. You don't have to do that. Basically, everything I put up is at this point is free for everyone to read. I just have the paid subscription option turned on so that people can support the newsletter if they want to.
Delightful. Thank you. Yeah, I know that this is always a bit of a like, well, I don't want to, but if people want to, that would be very nice. I'm a working artist, and
basically,
right.
Yeah.
But a newsletter, I'm going to sort of highlight this as the Grand Arbiter, and I also have a newsletter. Newsletters are absolutely the best way to keep up with anyone. There's no algorithm. There's no people in Silicon Valley deciding what you'll get to see or you won't. You will just get the newsletter. So do sign up for Elizabeth's newsletter. Do read this book, finish it if you have not already. Elizabeth's Care and Memory is fantastic. Read the sequel, get ready for the third installment. What a gift! What a fantastic year for us in Steampunklandia. This is a treasure, top tier steampunk book. Elizabeth, what a gift of your time. Thank you so much for spending this time with all of us today and sharing your cats and your anecdotes and your insight to your writing. Is there anything else we should be looking for you being published in the near future that you would like to promote before we say goodnight?
If you also like space opera, the third book in the White Space series is coming out next May, UK and US. And that will be called The Folded Sky. The first book came out there's been a bit of a gap here. The first book came out in 2019. The second one came out in 2020, and then something happened. A whole bunch of things happened. So the first book is entitled Ancestral Night. The second one is called Machine, and the one that is coming out next, which is the thing that I just handed in and got paid for, is The Folded Sky. And those are far future space opera, women in STEM lesbians in space. I think
You already had me convinced, but really all you had to say was STEM lesbians in space, and I was like, take my money. That sounds amazing.
That's the elevator pitch for these books.
STEM lesbians in space. You heard it here. Go check out these books. Honestly, check out everything Elizabeth's written because it's all wonderful. And whether it's steampunk or not, I've been a fan of yours since before I read Care and Memory. So I recommend your work highly. And my darlings, of course, we have book club coming next month as well. We do this every month on the third Sunday of the month at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. And next month, we're reading this fantastic anthology, The Sea is Ours, which was edited by Joyce Chung. And oh my gosh, no, I'm losing my steampunk card because I forgot the second editor, even though I adore her.
Jamie, go.
Thank you very much, Bill. You are a mensch. Now, we have enjoyed this book in the past at our in-person book club. It's a wonderful anthology of short stories sent in Southeast Asia, written by Southeast Asian authors, produced by Southeast Asian editors. So it's really taking steampunk from a different perspective. And there are some fantastic short stories in there. I think there's something for everyone. So I look forward to discussing it with all of you next month on the 19th. In the meantime, everyone, please remember to take care of yourselves, to treasure yourselves as I treasure you, to wash your hands, drink the good tea, read the books, because you are irreplaceable. And if you don't take care of yourselves, I have to haunt you like an angry cat and knock your teacups off for the rest of eternity. And you wouldn't want that. So I'll see you back here next time at book club. Elizabeth, I hope if you will be so kind, if you'll spend a few moments with us after we wrap up. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. This was a wonderful time. I really appreciate being able to spend this time with you.